BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello and welcome to Match of the Day Top 10. Languishing at the bottom, staring into the abyss, and with all hope seemingly gone. No, I'm not talking about my usual guest lineup with Micah Richards and Alan Shearer. We're talking about the teams who've pulled off the great escape and ensured Premier League survival. The sides who, against all the odds, heroically stayed up after being written off by fans and probably media, people like our good selves. I suppose, Alan, this leads us straight into your brief spell as a manager at Newcastle, where you sadly didn't pull off a great escape.
Well, you didn't have to start with that, but as you're going to, I know one thing: it's a damn sight easier playing at the top of the league than it is down at the bottom. I mean, there's far more pressure, I think, down there.
You think there's more pressure on winning than not being it's not
enjoyable, is it? You're under so much pressure. I know you're under pressure at the top of the league to go and win whatever you have to win. But the pressure for you, because people's livelihoods depend on it, the whole football club depends on you as players. And if you as players or manager let that club down and are relegated, then people are going to lose their jobs, and that's on your back. That's your responsibility.
So would you like to apologise now?
Yeah, again, it was probably all my fault. So it's horrific. I mean, going into the last game of the season. We didn't know at the time, but as it turned out, we needed a point. And so if we had have drawn,
a decent manager,
that would have been. Yeah, we had a decent manager. Yeah. Again, it's horrible. It's horrible. You're under so much pressure. It's just horrible.
Is it worse when you're in charge than if you're just a player?
Oh yeah. I mean, in a way, you've got it. It's in your own hands as a player. You can at least do something whilst you're out there. When you're a manager, you're relying on people, on other players to help you out. And yeah, you're standing there at times. It's just, I mean, the night before you don't sleep at all.
What's the team talk like when you go into that final game?
Yeah, not very good, obviously.
You cross them in and you head about.
It's the new Beardsley.
Was that worked out together, that one, was it? You pair of
Oh, that's exactly what they were singing about you when he went down. Come on now.
What was it? It's just, I can't remember what it was.
It's best to have a bit of fun about these things, but at the time it must have been horrible.
It was
painful.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, you just don't want to let anyone down. That's a problem.
Yeah.
And I mean, what was I was the fourth manager that season, so there was obviously huge problems in the football club. And I was the last spin of the dice.
Do you regret taking it? No.
Not at all.
Would you have done anything differently in hindsight?
In hindsight, would I have done anything differently? Possibly, yeah. I would have possibly let several things go. I would have probably let the players still run the club, even though it was.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Well, there were so many things that had gone. Players were late. Players really didn't give. A lot of players were perhaps not interested in the football club as much as they should have been. So I tried to change that in the small time I was there. I perhaps should have just gone in there, tried to guide us through the season, have a laugh, have a joke, make everything. Try and lift spirits up, then try and change in the summer.
It's hard, though, isn't it, when you've got no experience whatsoever going in? Because it's not just because you're good at football and everything doesn't mean to say you're going to know exactly what to do when you go in there.
There was a lot of brilliant people at the football club, including some in the dressing room. But they were in the position. I got the job because of the position that we're in. 3 previous managers had been biffed off before I got there, so that tells us what the situation it was going to be. But I loved the intensity. I loved making decisions. Some were right, some were wrong. But I loved it. Was a brilliant 8 weeks, despite what happened at the end of it.
Yeah. Anyway, that leads us to great escapes. We've got. Let me read them out. Firstly, a lot of these I it's quite hard to remember because you tend to remember the people who win things, not necessarily who just escape relegation. So it's a little bit of an unusual one, but we'll go with it. We've got 1994 Everton, 2000 Bradford City, 2005 West Bromwich Albion, Portsmouth in 2006, the following year West Ham, Fulham's escape in 2008, which I think Danny Murphy's mentioned occasionally. 2012 was Wigan, 2015 Leicester, not sure that led to much. 2016 Sunderland and Aston Villa last season, of course. So, do you want to go first, Micah? You're 10 to 6 in order of, I don't know how you judge these, I suppose the greatest of escapes, we'll call it.
Okay, at number 10, I've gone for Bradford City. Gone Fulham at number 9. We have Sunderland at number 8. Wigan, number 7. Everton, number 6.
Okay. Give me your 10 to 6 as well, let's do it this way.
10 was West Brom. 9 was Bradford. 8 was Portsmouth. 7 was Fulham. And 6 was Wigan. 2012.
All right. Bradford, you got them in 10, Alan 9, so let's start with them. That was 2000. They won 4 and drew 1, and then they had to play against Liverpool, who were chasing a Champions League spot, and managed to beat them.
How do you get that form when you've been so poor all season?
Yeah, it's funny that it does happen though.
I mean, to win 4 and draw 1 of your last 5. Is it teams that have already the season's finished, nothing to play for, stepped off the gas a bit?
Sometimes get a bit of that.
It happens,
and then also maybe you win 1 or 2, and then it's like every game becomes huge, doesn't it, for them at that stage of the season? They had a few oldies in the team. Stan Collymore was.
Yeah, I've forgotten Stan was at Bradford. Until you mentioned that. 6 points from safety, were they? 5 games to go. So to win 4 and draw 1 of the last 5 is unbelievable.
Yeah, I've got them at 10. To be honest, what it was in 2000. I remember seeing clips of but I don't remember.
What you see clips of?
The ones that got sent to me last night. I remember seeing clips of their escape. I just remember them celebrating, but I don't remember too much about that game. So that's why they've gone in at my number 10.
Yeah, that's as good a reason as any. You've got 10 West Brom. That was an amazing escape. Brian Robson was in charge, wasn't he, at that point? He came in, I think Gary Megson was the manager for some of the season, and then Brian Robson came in, who was up and down kind of managerial career, didn't he? But he was what?
We had Robbo with England with Terry Venables was.
He was part of the team, wasn't he?
He was assistant manager. He was brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, he was the go-between for the lads and to the manager, and because he knew how it operated, he knew what the lads were up to, what they wanted to do, what they didn't want to do.
What were the lads up to, Al?
Well, he was part of that thing in Hong Kong. He was out drinking with the lads but the lads. I mean, he could do nothing but respect him because of who he was and what he was. He was unbelievable.
Dynamic.
So he was great. He was the great link. So. He had an up and down career as manager, but what you knew with him is, if it didn't work, then it wasn't going to be for the one to try.
Powerful, competitive player, unbelievable. Both and box-to-box player, score your goals. He wasn't a huge boat, but he was incredibly aggressive and a brilliant footballer as well. I was at Leicester and we played them it was a midweek evening game. Might have been one of the cup competitions. Played them at Old Trafford, and whenever we defended corners, I always used to stay up. And team meeting, Gordon Milne said, he's pointing out the marking at corners and all that, and he went, "Gary, I want you to come back and on the edge of the box and mark Brian Robson." I went, "Sorry?" He said, "Yeah, mark Brian Robson." I went, Me? I said, that's not really my... Robbo's brilliant. He'll just destroy me. He went, no, we've had him watched. He said he just sits on the edge of the box and sometimes if ball gets knocked out, because he can strike it, all you've got to do is sit on the edge of the box. And I thought, all right. And true this, first half, about 8 minutes in, there's a corner. So I go trundling back. There he is, as they said, Robbo, on the edge of the box. And I'm stood next to him and he's gone, give that a double take. So he's gone, what are you doing here? I went, marking you. And he went,
He just laughed at you.
I went, I know. Corner comes in. Did he stay on the edge of the box? Did he help? Into the thing, smash me, bang, boom, heads it just over the bar.
No way.
15 minutes later, there's the next corner. Back I come again. Ball gets in. Boom, rises above, boom, heads it in. Goal, 1-0. Another corner, hits the bar.
You had a stinker.
So, just unbelievable. So I went in at half-time and he's gone, Gary, stay up for corners. Stay up, true story. And when he was just laughing at me when he scored. Brilliant, though, it's funny. I've had that chat with him since. I mean, he must have thought it was all his Christmases had come.
You're on about form. I mean, West Brom that season won one of their first 23 matches.
Yeah.
And then they were only beaten 3 times, I think, in the last 11 games.
Yeah.
So to turn it around from that to then, it's just ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the confidence at that stage, isn't it? When you're in them positions, you win one, you think, ooh, we'll get another one.
Yeah, so that's why you've got them at 10, is it? So is that
well,
yeah.
And it's as I said, it's so much more difficult, I think, playing down at the bottom than it is at the top, and particularly if you've been in and around the bottom 3 all season, and then you suddenly get a sniff of it. Then you're right, yeah, the confidence is a huge thing.
Yeah, you both got Fulham in that 10-6, Micah 9, Alan 7. You got them in at 7.
Yeah.
So that was Roy Hodgson, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Roy. He would have had to have worked on all his experience or gained of all his experience on that occasion, and he did have some and has got some.
I think he took over from Laurie Sanchez. He was obviously one of the crazy gang at Wimbledon. Roy came in and turned things round.
Well, often when teams are in the mire, they look to someone who's been there, done it, seen it all. We've seen it with Sam Allardyce, who I'm sure will get a mention later on. But Roy's in that category where he's been around for so long that if you need someone to lean on, then Roy would be that bloke. So
I had a different experience of Roy. You know, when we was going to the Euros in 2012. You know, we have a laugh and joke, but it was actually my best season in a Manchester City shirt, and he was England manager, wasn't he? And he got, you know, it always hurts me. It hurts me because he got Stuart Pearce to ring me and tell me he's leaving me out of the squad.
He didn't do it himself.
He didn't do it himself.
Wow,
we talk about Mancini.
Really?
We've talked about Mancini. You know, being brutally honest, and he couldn't even ring me. And it was, I think, Kyle Walker or Glenn Johnson broke the toe. So I've just come off you know, we talk about highs and lows. Just won the Premier League, highest ever, you know, brilliant. And then you think you go into the Euros, and then the manager can't even ring you. So I lost a lot of respect for him. If he was honest, if I didn't like the way you're playing, or we're going to go with a different option, they can totally accept that. But he didn't pick me, and I've never really respected him after that, just for that one moment.
have you seen him?
Not seen him since. No, not seen him since.
That was always one of the bizarre things about those big competitions, wasn't it? When they have that thing where, when they name their squad, it's always the players that don't make the squad that become the story for a few days. But it's obviously for managers telling players. Wasn't the thing with when Gascoigne trashed? Was it Glenn Hoddles?
Glenn Hoddles, yeah, because Glenn had us sort of going in.
But as you
an
say, at least you
individual
did it face to face.
on your own,
Yeah.
queuing up to go and see him to find out whether you're in the squad or not. Yeah. That's when Gaza smashed the room up. Yeah, when he told him he wasn't in the squad.
And Righty was next in, wasn't he?
Righty.
He said everything was all over the place. Talk about Gaza then Righty. Blimey,
That's what you find, though, isn't it? We say about, have you seen him since? I was going to, because you're new to this part, this punditry business is that you've been with players who you've not got on with, or managers who you've not got on with, who've been kicked you, and then you've got to go and sit in alongside them. Have you found that yet?
I get on with everyone. I try to pick the best parts of everyone. I don't like negativity. And if he would have just been brutally honest with me, I would have respected him.
Yeah.
But I've never... And I don't, my punditry, if Crystal Palace are not doing well...
It'd be a horrible thing to do, I suppose, as a manager, is tell someone that you've left out. But if you've been part of it and then...
Yeah, but getting Stuart
Surprised with
Pearce
Roy,
to
though,
ring me...
I would have thought Roy would have done that.
Yeah, but,
Yeah,
Stuart
exactly,
Pearce rang me...
Did Stuart... I don't know whether you know this, but did Stuart Pearce get the job of calling the other players he left out, or do you know?
No, it would have been me because of my relationship. I had him at City.
Yeah.
I had him at England under-21s.
I wonder what Stuart Pearce thought when Roy said to him, Roy, do us a favour.
But you know what? I thought he was ringing me to tell me that I'm in the squad.
Yeah.
So, I've done the accent before. Micah. I'm sorry, Sam. Roy's not taking you. So I thought he was having a bit of banter at first. Because I'm thinking
no.
You laugh?
Yeah, I did laugh. I was like, and he goes, no, I'm being serious. But in that same conversation, it was the Olympics, wasn't it? So I didn't get to go.
And he was
the manager.
Oh, so he said,
but
yeah,
I'm going to be taking. If you're interested, I'm going to need to know by X, Y. So it turned. Again, I was high winning the Premier League, not going to Euros, but then I was high again going to Olympics because he chose me for that. But yeah, it was tough to take because I just wanted to. If you be honest with someone, you can't complain, can you? Yeah.
Big day for Danny Murphy, Alan, wasn't it, that one?
Yeah, Danny's never said anything about it, has he?
He tried to come for me on Match of the Day.
It's a bit like you two with the FA Cup.
Did he?
What did he say?
It's just a thing, though, when your big thing's avoiding relegation.
He was doing it Match of the Day. Remember when he talking about me touch? Was it touch? I was like, Match of the Day too.
Oh, no, I don't think
And I said, come talk to me when you've won a Premier League. Do you not remember? Yeah. And he just sunk into his chair. Yeah. But no, you can take it. It's a bit of banter, isn't it? Come on, it's a bit of banter.
That's what it's all about, a bit of that. Right, what else we got here? That you've both got in. Wigan. That was the season before, actually, went on to win the FA Cup when they did get relegated. The previous season, they managed to just avoid it. Roberto Martinez, he'll always be remembered there, obviously, for his FA Cup win.
Unbelievable.
And in 2012, that was a pretty decent escape.
It was crazy because I think their top scorer, Di Santo, only had 7 league goals, and he was there.
Probably why they were down the bottom.
Exactly, yeah. But you think about it, they survived. I really like Roberto Martinez. I work with him doing the Champions League, and the way he sees the game is really different. He's really tactical. Some might say he overthinks things at times, but no, he really knows his football. He knows the opposition, and he's managing one of the best teams in the world.
Belgium. They'll have a chance in the Euros, won't they?
Yeah, I believe they've got a good chance. Andy, we talk about managers knowing when to... Because he asked me for my opinion on the modern day player.
Why?
I know, yeah. I don't know why he's asking me. Yeah. But for how to approach certain situations.
When you say he asked you about the modern day player, what does that even mean?
It means because they're more sensitive, and the old school player. When I first come, I had Asa Hartford, who was my reserve team coach at Man City, and he was just brutal, but brilliant. Some of the things, if he said what he said to me now, I won't get away with it because it's evolved. But I respected him for that, and the modern day player is more sensitive and they like different things. So he's trying to make himself in tune with what the modern day player needs because it's always evolving. The game's always evolving. And the best managers, you see Mourinho now, one of the best managers to grace, football. But he's finding it difficult.
Yeah, because he's still, even now, puts his players away, does it publicly sometimes.
Public, you don't need, the public, if you come out, look at Luke Shaw, what he did to him at Man United. Yeah. He didn't react now. Look at him now. He's England's probably best left back.
I don't necessarily think that's a modern player. I just think that's the mistakes made in the treatment of older players in not bringing the best out of them. But it was always almost not bullying tactic, but you get shouted at and screamed at.
But it's the man management, isn't it? It probably has been. Yeah. And
but how many
of
us, Alan, respond better to an arm around the shoulder than we do a kick up the backside? I think the vast majority of people, not just in football, in all walks of life, don't. I suppose that's just a general change, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think, especially when I was first coming through, a lot of footballers wouldn't show their emotions; they'd just deal with it. Whereas now, football, the modern day footballer can express himself a little bit more. So I think that's the difference. You might always have the same feelings, but now they're
I think the man management side of things is obviously always been hugely important, and probably more important than the coaching side of things. To knowing how to get the best out of someone. I mean, psychology now is a huge part in football. I mean, you speak to managers. I spoke to Scott Parker last week, and he had an external company come in and just look at all his players and report back to him. So it was vitally important. So he knows how to treat them. He knows how to get the best out of them, what they like, what they don't like. So it's massively important. It always has been.
Yeah, it has always been. But I suppose it's just. I mean, the club staffs have been. I mean, they've got so many people for everything, haven't they? When we played, what was it? You get the manager and an assistant, and that'd be about it, wouldn't it? Yeah. And you get a reserve team coach and a youth team coach.
All the staff have got their own coach now. There's that money, isn't there?
The coach's
behind
coach.
The coach. Yeah.
So that's Wigan. Then we go. We've got Portsmouth in there for you, Alan. You've obviously got them higher, Micah, because they're not in your 10 to 6.
Yeah, I've got them a little bit higher.
It's 2006, and Alan Perrin was the manager at the start of the season, but then Harry came in.
If you need a job doing, Harry's the man, isn't he? And we just spoke about man management there. Harry was unbelievable, wasn't he? I mean, you speak to all the players who have worked underneath him. They all tell you different stories about him, how good he was. I mean, he was the guy for the man management and looking at players and how to get the best out of them, how to treat them. He was one of the lads, wasn't he?
In many, I suppose he was. I mean, I've not played. I've worked with him
probably
on
doing
TV,
a disservice as well because of his coaching ability.
Well, actually, if you look at his record, he did a lot. He just, took Spurs, didn't he? Did really well with them at times. A lot of clubs, he really, brought out the best in, individuals. Like Gareth Bale was, kind of turned him round in many ways, didn't he? And made him. I'm sure, Gareth's got unbelievable natural ability, but he certainly got the best out of him.
You just want to play for him, wouldn't you? He's just one of them managers.
Yeah, he's fun, isn't he? He's fun.
Exactly.
And makes the game enjoyable. But I think he can probably lose his temper, I don't know.
Oh, yeah, I would imagine that. That's probably why he had Joe Jordan alongside him.
Yeah.
Help him out on that side.
Yeah, you've got them in your top 5, Micah, for that particular escape.
Yeah, I've got them in my top 5, yeah. I just believe anything that he puts through. Harry's one of them managers where you just want to play for him, and I can imagine him galvanising the whole team spirit. And I think they picked up more points in the last 10 games than the previous, so it's ridiculous what he did when he went there. So yeah, there was number 5 in my top 10.
With 10 games left, there were 8 points off 4th bottom. So that's an unbelievable
turnaround. It's a hell of a turnaround, isn't it?
Incredible.
It's funny, though, as you said, though, isn't it? It just shows you how important, I think, confidence is in football, isn't it? When you've had a terrible season, all of a sudden you win one, and then you perhaps win another one. It's a different game, isn't it?
You just want that.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's confidence.
Did you ever get relegated?
Yeah, I got relegated.
Where?
Villa.
Oh yeah, of course, at the end of the.
It was tough.
Yeah.
They were some of my, and I know a lot of people talk me, I'm always happy and smiley, but then I wasn't say depressed. I was just borderline, because my knee wasn't great, and I came there as captain stroke vice captain. It was me and Gary Lineker, and started so well. Tim Sherwood got sacked. Then I brought in Remy Gard. Oh my word. He was, and I never put away managers because it's not, I don't feel you need to, but
you're about to.
He brought absolutely nothing. He was the worst manager I've ever come across. And his sessions were ridiculous. He didn't know how to...
What were they like?
He was just like... We had a session where... What did he do? Like, don't stop the ball when you're taking a touch. So we're all professional footballers. I don't know, I was 27, 28 at that time. And he's trying to tell me how to control the football. Like
you were at the bottom of the league.
I know, yeah, but we needed more than that. Teach us how to score a goal. Couldn't score a goal. They couldn't defend, couldn't do anything. And he was saying, like, don't stop the ball. So we got out a clip, we was at the video, and then, like, for banter, we had, like, one of the analysts put, like, a clip of Messi stopping the ball, you know, when he was there. So I was like, what is this? And the problem was... No, it was horrendous.
Not surprising you went down then.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. And the problem is we had a lot of French players in the team at the time. So because him being French, like, he was biased towards them, which caused unrest in the dressing room. So, like, even though he was going out and it was crap, it was because in the dressing room it was awful as well.
Probably one of the reasons why he was brought in is because of that, no, do you think?
Maybe, but he was terrible. And I was shambolic in that season. I had 4 good months at Villa, the first time under Shearer. After that, I was awful. No. I just, mentally, I couldn't. And the fans were...
Turn on you?
They massively turned on me. But not just like at the grounds, it was like social media. It was everything. And...
How hard was that to deal with?
I can deal with anything. You can take abuse, can't you? Because you take abuse all your life. Well, not mean it's right.
Yeah, particularly in football. I mean, it's like people say now, don't they, abuse on social media and stuff like that. But
yeah,
it just means they've got a different route at you in some ways. But you have to develop a thick skin in football.
You do. And Alan made a good point. Is when the manager when we was going down, 50% of the staff were losing their jobs. People who've been there for 15, 20 years. You've got to take that. And as bad as it sounds, like, we all got 50%, well, I got 50% cut when I went down to the Championship. I can still put food on the table for my family, and they're having to go find... So that's where it hurt me the most. That's what was the nasty part of it, and we all thought we didn't care.
In many ways, that's why these escapes are so mean so much, and you see the scenes at the end of the game where it's not necessarily something that sticks in the mind in terms of memories if it's not your club. But if it's your club when they stay up, it's very different. Let's go into your top 5. Alan?
Leicester 5.
Oh, only 5?
Sunderland 4.
Yep.
West Ham 3. Villa 2. And Everton 1.
Okay. Everton 1. Yeah. Okay, Micah?
I've got Portsmouth 5. Villa 4, West Brom 3, West Ham 2, and Leicester number 1.
Good lad. Such a creep. Villa, we've just talked about them when they didn't escape.
And the escape because Jack Grealish.
Yeah.
He's one of the most talented players. And I've been banging on this for a while though now.
Well, you knew him, you played with him, you trained with him.
Taking on people is the easiest I've ever seen.
Yeah.
He's similar to Nasri, the way he drops his shoulder. It's just like effortless the way he's strong. He knows how to buy a foul. Technically, he's very good. And without him, they'd have gone down because he's so pivotal.
Improved massively as well, I think, over the last couple of years, hasn't he?
But I think he's got players in the team now who are taking that little bit of pressure off him as well. And they've not been on a great run since he's been out the side. If you look at the statistics when he's in and out, they're massive. But now they've obviously got Watkins, McGinn's a good player, Cash is a good player at right back, got a good partnership.
I think he enjoys being the man.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. He is the man.
He's matured into it. I mean, he's brilliant. I mean, he's so hard to get off the ball, isn't he? And he does make the right passes at the right time.
Comparisons with Gaza?
I can see why. There's a similarity in the sense that they can both beat 3 or 4 players and can hold off. I don't think he's quite got Gazza's talent, not quite, but he's unbelievably talented football nevertheless. And, you know, in terms of character, there's no comparison because obviously Grealish likes a laugh and a bit of fun and got himself into a few situations, but there'll never only be anyone like Gazza in that sense. But
I mean,
it's sometimes unfair, isn't it? We like to kind of find players that are similar to other players, and you talk about some of the greatest players. It's difficult to make those comparisons, and probably a bit unfair on them. But I think he's very close now to being probably an important player for his country as well as his club. He could be. The truth is, if there weren't so many terrific young players in English football at the moment, then he'd walk in. But a lot of people think he should be anyway. And I totally would.
If the worst had happened, he probably wouldn't have been there now, would he? That's what happens when you get relegated, isn't it? Your best players ultimately will have to leave, so he may not have been at Villa. The
Do you think he'll be at Villa next season?
He loves Aston Villa. Yeah. He loves them.
It's a similar situation in sort of to Harry Kane, isn't it? There comes a point where if you want to be recognised as being an absolutely top player, it's hard on. Villa have made progress as well. Tottenham are on the periphery of things, but your clock's ticking in your career, and it's difficult when you're leaving your club. I had it at Leicester. I had to do exactly that. Yeah. We escaped relegation once or twice, and we got relegated once or twice, but build up. And that's the club Leicester were. They were, the yo-yo club between the old second division, the old first division. And it's hard leaving. It's such a difficult decision. I made a conscious decision not to walk out on a contract, so I saw my contract out. It wasn't because of a Bosman thing, because that didn't exist back then, so you had to go to the tribunal, which I've talked about. But it's hard. It's hard to make that decision because you made it the other way around, Alan, when you're going back to Newcastle. But I'd been there since I was a kid, but it comes a point where ambition takes over, I suppose, and that still Grealish and Kane will have that to come. Yeah,
I think it's difficult for Grealish because he's not one of them. He's not like me who supported Arsenal playing for me. He's not. Yeah. He loves Villa.
He lives for the.
And he's had the shirts from.
Yeah, I know. And also, you should never underestimate that because there's always the criticism about players or the money or the finance or whatever. There are lots and lots of players who actually love their football club, and he is. I think you can tell that he is one of those.
Unquestionably.
The only thing is he's starting to see.
But you said he's definitely signing for City, didn't you?
Well. No. Where'd you get that from, Alan?
Is that right? You got some inside information?
No. There's no inside information here. But
it'll be the first time ever that the Match of the Day Top 10 podcast comes out with a scoop.
No, I just feel he's got players who are not as good as him or as talented as him playing in the Champions League, and on them if you ever watch his Instagram. He's always got Champions League nights on and all that. He's going to want to be a part of that at some stage. It's just the timing of
when
that.
And where.
The only thing in his favour is Villa can pay money. They've got owners, and he won't be losing out on money.
Spent a fortune, haven't they, the last couple of years?
Exactly that. So
it's not nowadays a situation where you do it for money, is it? Because it can be to some, but they earn so much anyway that it's not the most important thing. The most important thing for footballers is winning things. Well, that's what you and the glory, isn't it?
Well, you perhaps argue against that with look at Harry Kane. Now you mentioned him earlier about that and Tottenham.
If he moves, though, it wouldn't be for money, would it?
No, it's not going to be for money. But he'll also think that he might want to break Jimmy Greaves' record. Yeah. You might want to have a statue outside that ground at Tottenham, and that might mean.
Bet you hope he moves abroad, don't you?
I'm going to lobby for him to go to Madrid or PSG or somewhere like that. I think he should. Did you notice I never mentioned the record, the Premier League record, though, just because I knew what was coming back?
How many does he need to get your record?
You just have mentioned it.
How many does he want?
How many does he need?
98.
Roughly.
He's 28 in July. Or June.
Very good.
Oh, brilliant.
Where were we?
Sunderland. Alan, you've got them in your top 5. I suppose that's because it's
I was going to put them last
relegation.
because on that season they survived. Newcastle went down, unfortunately. But if in doubt, call Big Sam. He'll get. Well, yeah, maybe not this season with.
He worked
West
wonders,
Brom,
didn't he, in the
but
January transfer window? Didn't he bring?
That's been a big part of it, hasn't it? Is bringing unknown players in and them doing a job for him. And one defeat, I think, in the last 11 games he had that season. And he was magnificent at doing that and getting the dressing room, galvanising the dressing room, getting them together and bringing 2 or 3 players in the window who ultimately did a job for him.
Be interested if he can do it this season. It's probably worth mentioning the fact that this was recorded quite a few weeks before it actually comes out. So we don't know where Big Sam and West Brom are at this particular stage. They might be. It would be some miraculous comeback if they pulled it. So.
I think this is going to be his first time. He's not going to do it, isn't it? He's going to be relegated.
Yeah, it'd be very funny if this comes out.
I know,
They're now 3 points above the relegation gap. But no, it looks impossible, doesn't it? Particularly with Newcastle winning a couple of games a few weeks ago. We'll see.
Yeah.
That rivalry, Alan, that Newcastle-Sunderland it's quite hateful, isn't it?
Yeah, they don't like each other. I suppose not many do. I mean,
so them escaping would have made it exacerbated the situation.
It was a tough one to take, I'm pretty sure Sam would have enjoyed it with him being at Newcastle also. So it hurts. I mean, the rivalry is. I mean, I'm reluctant to say hatred because I've been to. We've all been to the Celtic Rangers games. I mean, that is.
Have you ever been to one of those?
Just once.
Something else.
It is crazy. Absolute.
So I wouldn't particularly go that far, but it's not a nice not a nice feeling. Great games to play in though.
Yeah. Everton. That was. There's a few goals in the last game. What was that last game of the season? That was. I've done that.
There's 2 down after.
And they came back.
I
think it kicked off a little bit late. On that particular day.
I think Everton kicked off late as well because they were 2-0 down, weren't they, in their game? So they didn't come into it till late on.
And of course, Everton have never been relegated. It would have been
Never.
the first time in their history. So even added pressure on the situation there. And it was also Howard Kendall's kind of the end of him. At Everton because he left and Mike Walker took over, didn't he?
The great Howard Kendall.
Yeah, he really was. Obviously, I played with him for him, I should say, one season, and I was just a great guy.
The lads like him.
What was great about him?
I mean, he was just an engaging personality. He's one of those that get you to run through a brick wall. Tactically, he knew the game, understood it really well. But it was the togetherness that he managed to get. You know, he's one of those that if you're having a bit of a patch or something, he'd take all the players to his favourite Chinese restaurant for a lunch that would go on all night. Stuff like that. He was almost as close as you'll ever get to a manager that just wanted to be kind of one of the lads, and he loved it. And he was just a sensational guy and a brilliant coach as well. He really did understand.
And the way they came back, because they were, as I said, 2-0 down, and then I think Graham Stewart scored a penalty, Barry Owen volley.
I think actually the Everton fans were relying on a certain Alan Shearer that day because you were playing against Ipswich. And you could have helped them out. They didn't need you in the end, Alan, but you'd badly let them down anyway because it was goalless, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, I didn't get any crosses in that day, I remember it. Don't blame me. It took a point. Yeah. They survived, so everyone went home happy.
We'll move on to West Ham.
Yeah,
West Ham,
that was 2007, wasn't it? And
yes, score that goal, wasn't it? Yeah. Man United. Yes, I remember that day. But it was the shenanigans of Tevez and Mascherano.
We talked about that. transfer shocks on that stage. But
there was there was court cases after that as well, wasn't there, from Sheffield United?
Yeah,
the role that Tevez played and the third-party ownership, which was not allowed, etc.
Yeah, Alan Pardew started the season, then Alan Kirbishley came in to do the job, who did a brilliant term job at Charlton, didn't he, Kirbishley?
Well, we talk about form. 7 of the last 9 they won.
Yeah.
You're in a relegation battle, and then you come and produce results like that when the rest of the season's been pretty poor.
Yeah.
And then to win 7 of 9 to stay up, it's unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah. Which brings me to Leicester, who I think also won 7 of their last 9 games. They were almost certain to go down, and then the following season won a title. Which
how do you work that out?
How did that happen? It's impossible. That's that whole thing about the Leicester story. Was suddenly they were useless, and then suddenly brilliant, and it's hard to explain why. It's almost like now if Fulham escaped this season, which again, hasten to add, this was recorded a few weeks ago, they might already be down, who knows. If they did escape and then won the league next season, you would say that just is impossible. And I suppose, is that why you've got them number 1 there? Because of what they went on to do, Micah?
They were the bottom with 10 games to go, wasn't they? Won 7 of the last 9, finished 14th. That's just unheard of.
Yeah.
It was just magical. Team spirit must have been pumping. And no, they fully deserved that. If you go on that sort of run, and then it's not stopped there, go and win the Premier League. Yeah.
Why only 5? Why only 5th, Alan? I don't think you spent a lot of time on that.
By the sounds of it, I don't think any of us have.
Well, only 5th, you got Everton. I suppose Everton came from 2 down and to survive, but that Leicester.
Yeah, it's mad. It's just mad what happened, wasn't it? You're on the brink of going down, and then 12 months later.
Yeah,
the fans. We've talked about what players and they go through and the pressure, etc. And 1 year you're actually battling relegation, the next you've come back to win a Premier League.
Mad,
yeah.
It certainly was mad, and the weird thing is, despite all that, there's a change of manager in the summer.
Yeah.
And that, obviously not for football reasons. Obviously there was a problem with his son and stuff, wasn't it?
Pacing to Ranieri.
Yeah, and Ranieri. Beautiful story, the Ranieri story, but that's for another day, probably, the actual title campaign. So that's kind of our tumultuous journey through the greatest escapes in Premier League history ends. And all we need to do really is come up with a number 1. And because you've got different final answers, I get to decide. So it's quite easy. I'm with you, Micah.
Yes. Oh, where you going?
Not for the first time you agreed with me.
It's got to be Leicester in top spot, hasn't it? Who else could it be?
Who else
could it be? I think you've both just about done enough to stay up and stay in for the rest of the season on our Top 10 podcast. As always, if you want your view, just use the hashtag MOTD Top 10. Cheers. Thanks for listening.
This is Nas. I'm here to tell you about a new podcast about the greatest there ever was.
Muhammad Ali versus Joe Frazier was more than a prize fight.
A fight that stopped the world in its tracks.
It's an onslaught now, and he's down.
A fight that changed the world forever.
15 hours ago, I left the ringside of Madison Square Garden, New York, carrying with me the videotape recording of one of the most extraordinary fights of all time.
A boxing match that transcended the sport.
Muhammad Ali became a martyr in many ways. He forsaked everything to refuse to go and fight.
The fight of the century. Ali versus Frazier. Listen on the BBC Sounds app.